Hi everyone, welcome back to the third session. Till now, in the previous classes, we saw that what is nutrition and the types of nutrition and how photosynthesis takes place in autotrophic plants. Along with that, we also learned how photosynthesis takes place in desert plants, in algae, and non-green plants. Non-green plants which contain chlorophyll. Well, in today's class, we are going to study the mode of nutrition in plants which do not contain chlorophyll. Got it? The plants which do not contain chlorophyll. Now, in the previous classes, we have studied plants are autotrophs only when they have chlorophyll. Now, the category which we are going to study in this class is they do not contain chlorophyll. So, we will see heterotrophic nutrition in plants. So, let's begin with the PPT.
Okay, let's move on to the first slide. There are certain plants which cannot synthesize their own food as they do not have chlorophyll. These plants depend on other plants for food and they are called as heterotrophs. So they therefore exhibit heterotrophic mode of nutrition. Right? Now heterotrophic plants are further divided into following types. There are 4 types. They are parasitic plants or parasites, saprophytic plants or saprophytes, insectivorous plants or insectivores, symbiotic plants or symbionts. Now we will see all these types of heterotrophic plants one by one. First we will take parasitic plants. A parasite is an organism that lives in or on another organism and derives nutrients from it. The organism from which a parasite derives its nutrients is called the host. For example, Cuscuta or amarbel plant. It is a leafless and rootless plant, right? It entangles itself around the host and derives food from it. It is often called as devil's hair. If you see the third picture in the slide, it looks like the devil's hair. Now, some more examples of parasites other than plants. Have you ever been bitten by a bedbug or a head lice? These are animals which derive their nutrients from humans. There are some parasites such as hookworms and tapeworms which attacks animal too. Actually, our body is a walking colony of microscopic monsters like parasites. We cannot always see parasites, but 75% of the world's creatures belong to this parasitic group. The second type is saprophytes. A saprophyte is an organism that obtains its nutrition from dead and decaying matter. I'll repeat again. A saprophyte is an organism that obtains its nutrition from dead and decaying matter. Now take a moist piece of bread, keep it in a dark and damp place for few days. What will you observe? Here you will observe greenish grey thread-like growth on the surface of the bread, right? This is bread mold, and this bread mold is a fungus. Fungi cannot make their own food. These organisms release digestive juices and convert the matter into simpler liquid form which is absorbed by the organisms for nutrition. In this manner, saprophytes obtain their nutrients because they secrete some juices so that it is easier for them to absorb the nutrients from the dead and decaying matter. Now, you might have observed small umbrella-like structures growing on the logs of wood, especially during the rainy season. These are called as mushrooms. A mushroom is also a fungus. Its mode of nutrition is saprophytic. A mushroom is an edible fungus here because we eat mushrooms and mushroom is available everywhere in the markets every time. But all the mushrooms are not edible because there are some mushrooms which are poisonous as well. So you need to be very careful when you select the type of mushrooms. Now during rainy season, you may see white patches developing over leather items such as shoes, or leather bags. These white patches are also called as fungi. Now you might be having a question, where do the fungi in bread, wood or leather come from? Actually, the spores of the fungi are present in the air, and whenever conditions become favorable, they settle down on a particular surface and begin to grow, and they spoil your wooden furniture and your leather bags or maybe leather wallets also. So that is the reason why we need to keep it in a dry and safe place, your leather articles, especially during the rainy season. So this is all about the saprophytes. Next, the third category, insectivorous plants or insectivores. We all know that different animals eat different organisms. But have you ever seen or heard of plants eating animals? Yes, there are some plants which feed on insects. Such plants are called insectivorous plants, or you can say insectivores. Leaves of insectivorous plants are modified to trap insects. For example, Venus flytrap and the pitcher plant are examples of insectivorous plants. You have studied about these two plants in primary classes also, isn't it? So, let's see how these two plants are modified to eat insects. First, the pitcher plant. In a pitcher plant, each leaf is modified into a pitcher-like structure with the lid on the top. You can see in the picture the lid on the top. Hair are present inside the pitcher. Now what are the functions of these hair? So when an insect sits on the pitcher, the lid closes to trap the insect. It gets entangled in the hair of the pitcher and is killed by the digestive juices secreted inside the pitcher. So once the insect sits, the lid closes and the insect is trapped inside the pitcher, and because there are some hairs which are present in the pitcher, the insect cannot come out, and slowly the digestive juices are secreted and the insect is digested. Now the second type of insectivorous plant, that is Venus flytrap. So in a Venus flytrap, each leaf consists of two lobes. You can see in the picture, these are the two lobes. The inner surface has short, stiff hair and is reddish in color to attract the insect. The moment an insect touches the hair, the lobes mesh up together to trap it. Now observe the pictures of pitcher plant and Venus flytrap. What is the color of their leaves? The color of the leaf is green. Does this indicate that these plants also perform photosynthesis? Actually, the soil in which these plants grow is deficient in certain nutrients. So they eat insect to fulfill their nutrient requirement, especially nitrogen, because they grow in a marshy place, so their soil is not getting enough of nitrogen. So that is the reason these plants are developed into insectivorous plants. The giant pitcher plant, which is believed to be the world's largest meat-eating shrub, attracts even the rodents and frogs, and it can digest such big frogs and even the rats also. So this is about the insectivorous plants. Now the last category of heterotrophic plants, that is symbionts or symbiotic relationship. Now symbiosis is the combination of two Greek words. Sym means with and biosis means living, which means living together. In symbiosis or mutualism, two different types of organisms live and work together for their mutual benefit from each other. They share shelter and nutrients. Example, the lichens. Lichens are composite organisms composed of fungus and alga. Now we know fungus is a saprophyte and alga is an autotroph. The fungus supplies water and minerals to the cells of the alga, while the alga supplies food prepared by photosynthesis. So this is one symbiotic relationship. Now you can see in the pictures a bird sitting on the back of a rhino, and it is also an example of symbiosis. In another picture you can see the bird gets worms to eat while the rhino gets rid of these worms. Now in this picture, if you observe, the small birds like oxpecker eats ticks and other parasites that live on the skin of the rhinoceros or any other big animal. The rhinoceros, on the other hand, gets rid of the parasites. Both organisms are thus mutually benefited from each other. So such relationship where two organisms benefit from each other by sharing their resources and shelter are known as symbiotic relationship. There are certain bacteria which live in human body, and in turn it synthesizes vitamin K. Now this is the last topic of this chapter, that is enriching the nutrients in the soil, or how soil is replenished with nutrients. Now continuous growing of crops results in the depletion of all the nutrients. So we have to see how soil is replenished. Whenever we feel hungry, we eat food, right? Similarly, even the soil needs to be added with certain nutrients, especially nitrogen, because plants need a lot of nitrogen. Now after the harvest, the soil becomes deficient in nitrogen. We have learnt in the previous class, nitrogen is available in plenty in the form of gas. The plants cannot use this nitrogen in the manner they can use carbon dioxide, right? They need nitrogen in soluble form. In the previous class, I also told about the bacteria that converts gaseous nitrogen into soluble nitrogen, right? The bacteria is called rhizobium. So this rhizobium bacteria absorbs or converts the atmospheric nitrogen into a soluble form. Here, one more interesting thing you can see is the rhizobium cannot make its own food. So it lives in the roots of leguminous plants like gram, peas, moong, beans, etc. Rhizobium provides nitrogen to the plant, and in return the plant provides food and shelter to the bacteria. So here you can see give and take relationship exists. Now can you tell me what type of relation do rhizobium and legume plants have? Is it saprotrophic, or is it parasitic, or is it symbiotic? Yes, it is symbiotic relationship. This symbiotic relation of bacteria and plant plays a very important role in farmers' life. That is the reason why farmers grow different types of crops in their farms. In rainy season, they grow paddy or rice. Once the harvesting is done, some farmers grow legumes like moong dal, tur dal or peas. When you do this type of crop rotation, the deficiency of nitrogen can be easily solved. They do not need to add nitrogen fertilizers to the soil in which leguminous plants are grown. So if you are going to go for the same crop for the second time or the third time, or again and again, if you want to grow only similar type of crops, then you need to add chemical fertilizers to fix the nitrogen requirement.
Let's recap today's lesson. We saw the heterotrophic nutrition and the four main categories of heterotrophic nutrition. The saprophytes feed on the dead and decaying matter, parasites feed on the other organisms, and in symbiotic relation, how the organisms mutually exchange food and shelter, and how insectivorous plants feed on other insects. In the end, we also saw how crop rotation helps the farmers to a great extent for the nitrogen fixation. Now, this is the end of chapter number 1, that is nutrition in plants. Now, it's a time for assignment. So everyone click on the link and download the assignment sheet and solve it and submit it later.